Hello everyone and welcome to Speedcafe's preview of the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix, proudly brought to you by Ford Ranger. It takes you and a Ranger. This is it, folks. It's getting juicy. The 2025 F1 season is reaching its penultimate round, round 23, at the Lusail International Circuit for the fourth ever running of the Qatar Grand Prix. And could we be any more excited? To quote a very famous television character, there's 24 points between three drivers with 2 rounds remaining. This is the first time since 2010 that we have at least 3 drivers battling for supremacy to take the World Championship. It's incredible, particularly after the double disqualification of both McLarens in Las Vegas. It makes things very, very juicy heading into this weekend. 5.419 kilometer circuit at the Lusail International Circuit. It's quite a popular track for a new circuit, sweeping corners, fast straights, lots of action happening here. It's a very hot race, of course. We've seen some pretty harrowing scenes at this circuit over the years involving the drivers having to cope with very hot conditions. But outside of that, it's actually an enjoyable race to watch, even though it's quite early for us here in Australia and New Zealand getting up to have to see this circuit. Of the 3 races held in Qatar, all 3 have been won from the front row, 2 of them from pole position. So it's quite an important race to qualify well. And Max Verstappen enters this race in good form. He's won the last 2 Grand Prix in Qatar, with Lewis Hamilton taking the very first one back in 2021. So he'll be liking those stats, particularly off the back of what happened in Las Vegas. And his push to claim his 5th consecutive Drivers' Championship from seemingly nowhere. He was in it, then out of it. Then in it again, then out of it. Now he's in it again. It's crazy to see how quickly things in Formula One can turn. Before we get to the championship, though, we should also talk about Oscar Piastri when it comes to the Qatar Grand Prix. Now, we know he's not in the best form right now, 6 Grand Prix without a podium. But if there's a silver lining for Oscar, it's Qatar. He likes this track. In his 2 Grand Prix at this race previously, he's finished on the podium both times, 2nd in 2023, 3rd in 2024. Never been beaten by Lando Norris in a Grand Prix in Qatar. And in the 2 previous sprints at this race, Oscar Piastri won them both. His only 2 ever sprint victories in Formula One came at this race. He does enjoy the Qatar Grand Prix. And this, of course, is another sprint weekend, the last of the season. So he needs to find some points. He needs to find some form. And you're going to hope it's going to be this weekend in Qatar. For Lando Norris, on the other hand, well, he may not have done fantastically at this race in the past, but he doesn't really need to focus on that too much. He just needs to maintain his gap in the championship. 24 points is his current lead over both Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen. Verstappen, of course, coming right back into the fray after the double disqualification of the McLarens in Las Vegas, which really does make things very juicy. Norris can leave this Grand Prix as world champion. If he leaves this weekend having scored 2 more points than both Verstappen and Piastri, he is the world champion. It's that simple. If things go quite similar in sort of they finish around about the same places in the sprint, doesn't really change too much of the points. Norris just needs to win the Grand Prix on Sunday. He is world champion. That simple. But for Verstappen and Piastri, they've got to whittle away the points a little bit more in order to make it go to Abu Dhabi to give us a final round title showdown for the first time in 4 seasons. The championship cannot be decided on Saturday. We need to point that out so that no matter what happens in the sprint, even if Norris wins and Verstappen and Piastri do not finish the race, then we will still have to wait till Sunday to see if Norris can leave as a champion. Some fun facts, though, around battles involving 3 or more drivers this millennium. Happened twice, 2007 and 2010. Now, back in 2010, there were 4 drivers in contention for the Drivers' Championship, and the driver furthest back won the championship with 2 rounds to go. That was Sebastian Vettel, who was 24 points behind with 2 rounds remaining. He went on to win the 2010 World Championship, of course, and he had never led the Drivers' Championship at all in 2010 until that very final race, something which Max Verstappen would also follow if he wins it in the final race, because he has never led the Drivers' Championship all season either. So there's a fun fact for you. And then in 2007, parallels to this season, as we had 2 McLaren drivers battling a driver from another team. That year, it was Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso driving for McLaren. They led the championship, 17 points ahead of Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen with 2 rounds remaining, and Kimi Räikkönen ended up winning that World Championship in 2007. So if you're into stats and patterns, then that might be something interesting to take note going into this weekend. Outside of the Drivers' Championship, a few other things to keep an eye on this weekend. Second place in the Constructors' Championship is still up for grabs. Mercedes are sitting quite well though, 40 points clear of Ferrari and 53 points ahead of Red Bull. So it looks like it's Mercedes to lose, at least for finishing second in the Constructors' Championship. But it's not over till it's over. We will have to wait and see how that plays out. But the even more interesting one, particularly for the lower teams when it comes to championship positions, and we know how vital money is spread throughout those positions, how important it is for funding for these teams moving forward. The battle for 7th in the Constructors' Championship right now, separated by only 5 points with 3 teams with only 2 rounds remaining. Haas currently sit in 7th, but there is only 5 points between them, Aston Martin and Sauber with 2 rounds remaining. And 17 points ahead of Haas are Racing Bulls. So a lot can happen there. So if we took it from 6th down to 9th, lots at play for those teams pushing for higher positions in the championship. So while we're excited, obviously, to see how the Drivers' Championship plays out, that's where our focus will be. We also need to keep an eye on some of these other positions too, because that also can create some excitement, particularly when the midfield is so tight and we don't really know how it's going to play out from round to round. I'm excited. You're excited. F1 fans are absolutely pumped and excited. We want to see some action. We want to see some excitement. And let's be honest, we want to see it go to the final round. We want to see a final race showdown for the first time in F1 since 2021. And it could happen this weekend. Everything is on the line. If you want to stay up to date with everything happening from the Qatar Grand Prix, despite the hours, if you're watching and paying attention from Australia and New Zealand, you're going to have some very sore eyes this weekend. But it's going to be worth it. Keep it tuned right here to Speedcafe. We'll have all the results, updates, and news and everything happening as the 2025 F1 season gets that little bit spicy and draws very close to a close.